Dear perceptive reader, this is a wisdom letter, okay? I thought about it, making it a consultant moment, but I said no. This is something that I will write about more in details, so I can actually give a reference here and there. So I want to start by saying um, a thought from Jesus, really. What? No, a question. What did Jesus mean? And why did he say this when he said, stop judging and you won't be judged? Well, in the opening of that statement, and I almost feel like, yeah, now that could certainly be a command. Stop judging, because he already knows the tendency of the human imperfect heart to do such a thing, to judge. Now, with that thought in mind, I want to express to you that over the years, there's been some very spiritual and balanced judges that I'm telling you, just like Jesus, there would be situations where even the masses would be clamoring and crying uh, for justice to be done against this person or some other type of situation. And the way these well balanced, you see, type of judges that I was telling you about, with even understanding in deep spiritual matters, would actually take care or handle the situation. Sometimes it took years later for people to appreciate why it was handled in such a way, that the so-called axe or the book wasn't thrown at this person or that person in a certain way. And I'm just going to give you an example of something that is factored in. Keeping the spirit of what Jesus said about stop judging, you won't be judged. You see, the reality of the matter is people can do some pretty, dumb stuff, stupid stuff, and I'm going to say even mean-spirited and hard-hearted stuff, all in their first several decades of their life, all within their first several decades of their life. And what this has turned into is a system of persons just wanting to keep track so that maybe they can capitalize on it in this way or that way. You see, whether it's called blackmail, whether it's called extortion. That's a lot of situations that a lot of people are in, and even for some of the littlest things that they may have done in the first several decades of their life, you see. And for a lot of spiritual minded persons and balanced judges, they will actually sum it all up, and I'm one of them, that really goes into what people would just call growing pains. And especially if they love you. It's not a thing of letting people get away with it. No, it's not that at all. But it still falls into a lot of situations that will go right into growing pains. And growing pains, the reason why we say pain with it, because some of these situations were just more on the even harsher side of it, going beyond saying something mean to somebody or whatever, but it gets into all sorts of other type of stuff that people may consider serious. I'm going to keep the taking of a life, I'm going to keep that separate from this, okay? But I'm talking about everything else in between. If I had to look at the terms that the justice systems use from from felonies and misdemeanors. A judgmental spirit will, and I've seen it more than once, they will turn misdemeanors even into serious felonies. And they would treat the person even heavier than even what some of the felonies would require, but they'll treat that person who did the misdemeanor, you see, with even a heavier judgment than, let me emphasize again, that a felony wouldn't even still, you see what I'm saying, accept as a sentence, if you will. And I want to also emphasize that with balanced judgments, sometimes you'll find out from these persons who are up in age that if you get to know them or what have you, um, and it's not, and it's in the setting that I told you, I always use the setting of the walking through the parks and things of that nature. Well, one of the reasons why they have such empathy and understanding is because guess what? They went through their growing pains as well. And so what we have here today sometimes in policies, etc., uh, the policies, and I see why they're really set up that way, because you still got to know the difference between right and wrong. Okay. And yet there's a lot of ways from censorship onward uh, that has been implemented over the years where it's almost like it's set up to really get to the criminal, to get to somebody that's really a straight up criminal. But it has been blanketed across everybody, even to just a little innocent one who would just trip over a crack. And that's the difficulty we have sometimes with, uh, knowing when to act on this, when not to, when to just, just let time tell. But as I said before, uh, stop judging and you won't be judged. It can really give you something to think about even more on why Jesus said that. And I think some of the stuff that I've shared with you today, um, in the spirit of why he would even say that, I think some of the information that I brought out to you is certainly applicable and something that you can still keep in mind. You know, I talk to you as if you one day, whether you start a family or whether you go into these other areas in your own businesses, that you will still be able to look at matters um, in a balanced way. I mean, yeah, you factor in whatever was done, and yet you still realize. I told you, no human. Just like I already say, let me reference this about the growing pains. Uh, for the most part, no human should not be, like I said, browbeaten and harassed or what have you for the rest of their lives for this and that, for growing pains. And then I've mentioned on the flip side of that, where, once you get people way, way up, in years, I always talk about around about 80s. And even before that, it applies, but it's almost like, yeah, between the years between your 40s and 50s, that's where it's like, man, you better really be on your P's and Q's, but that's just a joke. But as far as even ones who get up way in years, it ain't no business in the world that, I always say again, yeah, you, you can argue with the person if you want to in the coffee shop or what have you, but to still try to put them into some type of situation where you really want to just lock them up in jail, what have you, uh, for misdemeanors or even for even some felonies in some cases. See, it depends. Remember, there's different type of white collar crimes that still fall into felonies, which, like money embezzlement and things of that nature, where it still really boils down to already now we do have enough in place as far as the systems that we do have that, you know what, you don't even have to put somebody uh, in some jail, you see, some cold-hearted jail. Yeah, and you certainly don't have to put that person in an insane asylum either because they did something wrong in this world, because they're not insane. And they're not, probably greedy, and I know some people, like say, sociopaths, but I'm not talking about them, but I'm just saying you have some persons, a lot of people in this day and age of trying to make a living, that they fall into a weakness of doing, in the process of doing whatever it takes, because on one hand, that's the mantra, do whatever it takes, do whatever and yeah, can I tell you, a lot of that do whatever they take, they don't think about it. It goes into the area of being presumptuous. You see what I'm saying? Uh, uh, Being opportunist. You see what I'm saying? Opportunistic. And they don't look at that as being bad at all, because they're doing whatever it takes, no matter whether it is shown not only insensitivity towards the person that they like. No, you know what? Now this competitiveness right here, this competition, I'm gonna do whatever I need to, and if I need to even plagiarize or take your work, I'm going to do it. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't think about it until somebody gets so mad and probably just slap them in their face or what have you. And that's not what I'm promoting. What I'm just telling you still is sometimes a slap in that way, figuratively at least, is enough to make that person wake up. They don't have to spend the rest of their, lives just being slapped every day. You see, in harsh ways, unless, like, remember I told you, some people are hard-headed, but I told you we're not going there. But that's what I just want to share with you today, Perceptive Reader. Grasp the spirit of what Jesus was saying. And I told you, and it's like a command here, you stop judging and you won't be judged. And get the sense and the spirit of why he said that, and how it may apply even in your own personal life today. Take care of yourself.